Usually when people call us, they're not quite ready to get divorced. Like, they're getting there. It's a process. I mean, think about how difficult this is. Your entire life is going to be turned upside down and then split apart. It's not a decision that you just make off the cuff, willy-nilly, emotionally. You really need to be ready. So one of the things you should do to prepare for the divorce is to begin collecting all of your financial information. You need to know the names of all your banks, your accounts, the account numbers, your retirement accounts, what's in them. Start gathering all your statements for your credit cards, your truck payments, your car payments. Get your mortgage statements, get your tax returns. These are all documents that you're ultimately going to need to give to us when you're ready to go file for divorce. Or if your spouse files for divorce, you're going to need them too, because each party is going to need to file a financial affidavit, essentially laying out all of their assets and all of their debts, and they've got to disclose everything. So you should start preparing those things, getting them together, because your attorney's going to need them. Also, if you think your spouse is hiding assets, now's the time to start thinking about that and seeing if you can collect that information. Or if you think your spouse isn't going to declare those on that form I was talking about, start gathering that information and putting it together. Because again, your attorney is going to need that, and both parties need to disclose their entire financial picture in order to conduct financial discovery, which is a topic for another day. What are some of the documents that you should be collecting? Well, we kind of touched on it earlier. Everything as it pertains to the following. Assets. What are assets? Your house, your car. Okay, those are usually everybody's major assets. Retirement accounts. Those are assets. Ironically, debts are part of assets too. So you may owe a note on the mortgage. You haven't paid for the house completely. You don't own your car outright. Okay, those are debts. So you want all of your credit card statements. You want to get, I would always say, get it for the last year. You want to get the last 3 years of your tax returns. You want to get all of your retirement assets together and all the statements. Here's the important thing to keep in mind. What the court is looking to divide are marital assets and debts. If there are assets that you brought to the marriage premarital that are yours outright, you need to declare that as non-marital, and you need to be able to back that up with proof. If it's a retirement asset, maybe you put together $100,000 in retirement, and then you met your wife, got married, and then over the course of many years, that retirement asset has grown to $500,000, $500,000. Well, that first $100,000 should not be a marital asset. So you need to be able to get the documentation together to show what that asset was worth before it now transitioned over to marital. Because once you're married, everything you're pulling together is marital, both debt and asset-wise. So again, credit card statements, bank account statements, savings, checkings, money market, your mortgage statements. You want to get together all of your car payments. Everything that you're paying for on a monthly basis, you want to get together. And you want to have all those documents together for your attorney to review. This will simplify and speed up the process versus saying, I want to get divorced now, but you haven't done anything to prepare from an evidentiary standpoint prior to the day today where you said, let's get divorced. Make sure you've got that stuff in advance for your attorney. One of the things I think would be helpful is creating a budget. Listing out what are your monthly expenses. Here's what we pay for electric, for oil, for gas. This is the mortgage payment. This is the cable TV bill. This is the cost for our cell phones. This is what we budget weekly or monthly for food. This is what we budget monthly for childcare expenses. This is what we have to pay for our car and truck payments. Think of all the things you have to pay for daily. And then you want to have, here is my after-tax income on a monthly basis. And what you have are these two columns showing here's what your financial obligations are, here's what your income is, and this is what I'm left with each month. Don't gild the lily, as my father would say. Be really realistic and honest about it, because whatever you put on that financial affidavit, you're swearing to the truth of. And that means if the case goes to a final hearing or a trial because you and your spouse can't agree on certain things, you get to be cross-examined on that. So you're the one swearing to the truth of it, not your attorney. Your attorney is going to help you put this together. But if you're talking about putting together a budget, I think that's important. It helps explain to the court why you're asking for more spousal support, for example, or a larger portion of the assets than maybe what the other party thinks is equitable. But be very realistic about and accurate about what you're putting together in that budget for your attorney. When you're going to select an attorney, I usually shy away from clients who say, I want a pit bull. I want somebody aggressive. I want somebody who's just going to go curb stomp my spouse. I want to take him or her to the cleaners. I want to burn him to the water line. If that's what you're looking for, don't call us. We're not here to make this process more litigious, more difficult, more emotionally painful. And there are attorneys that will happily do that. We're not one of them. We will aggressively prosecute your case in the sense of we're going to obtain that divorce for you. We're going to make sure that you're treated as fairly as possible. But we're not out there to try and hurt someone, even if you have bad feelings toward your spouse. So if you want to use this process to abuse somebody, we're not the right law firm for you. When you're first starting this process, you're probably wondering, how do I choose an attorney? Well, it's kind of funny. This is how it works out. You ever see people and dogs and how, wow, that person looks like a bulldog, just like their pet, or they're happy-go-lucky, just like their golden retriever. I think, not scientifically, there's some correlation there. You tend to pick someone who you feel represents you from a personality perspective, as well as, of course, a skill set perspective. And what do I mean by that? A lot of it has to do with what you're looking for, and then you're looking for in an attorney. People who want to hurt another spouse by using this process shouldn't call us. We're not here to inflict more injury on someone. We're not here to make this a more litigious process. We're not here to inflict emotional pain on your spouse because you're angry. And quite frankly, divorce is not the place to iron out the emotional problems that have developed in your relationship, although it always tends to come out that way. That's what therapy's for. You need a good therapist, and you need a good lawyer, but you need a lawyer who's going to protect your rights, not just fight. If you want somebody just to burn your other spouse to the water line, that's not us. There are other attorneys that are like that. And because there are other attorneys who like to just be litigious, who are not responsive, who just want to fight about everything because that's how they operate, you also need someone that's going to protect you, and that is us. And while we're not here to make things more difficult and more litigious, we will fight to make sure you are treated fairly. And I think that's ultimately what you want. You don't want this process to be more difficult. You don't want it to get litigious. You don't want the kids hurt more than they already are. You just want to be treated fairly, and you want to move on with life. That's why you want to call us. Why wouldn't I want to be litigious? Well, there's a number of reasons. First and foremost, the less you can agree on, the more likely it is your case is going to go to trial. The more likely it is to go to trial, the more likely it is financial discovery is going to be conducted. All of that equals a lot of money. You're paying the firm, the employees, the attorney, the paralegal, the legal assistant for their time. And if you want to litigate about grandma's spoons because that's important to you, great. Okay, if it's really important. But if you're just litigating to be litigious, you're driving the cost up, not just for you, but for the other party. And we're talking about marital assets and funds. So really, it's depleting the marital assets the more litigious this gets. So when people want to be litigious, oftentimes it's just hurting themselves. Sometimes litigation, you've got to go to trial, you've got to be diligent, you've got to be firm, you've got to hold boundaries, and you've got to try cases. And it's just the way it shakes out. But you don't want to start out that way. As much agreement as you can get up front as possible is good for you in the bottom line at the end of the day. If you've got any questions about preparing for divorce, call the Maine Divorce Group. We help good people in bad situations find a happier future through divorce.